Well, I got the email, I believe it was yesterday. No, it must have been Sunday afternoon because it happened Saturday night. Libertarian capitalism killed one of my best friends. Libertarian capitalism also killed my father and the family of one of my coworkers. Let me explain. There are two ways that a nation can allow products to come into the marketplace: the libertarian, unregulated American way and the regulated capitalism European way. When a nation like the United States uses the libertarian way to bring goods to the marketplace, it lets corporations send whatever they damn well please into the marketplace, regardless of how dangerous it might be. The theory is that once people notice how deadly something is, they'll stop buying it, and the free market will magically correct itself. Nations that use the regulated European way, however, force manufacturers to prove that products are safe to use before they're made available to purchase. This is called the precautionary principle. It requires manufacturers to prove to government, and thus to society, us, that the new product is safe before it's let into the marketplace. Here's how this country's libertarian approach to regulation killed my best friends, my father, and the family of one of my coworkers. Scientists and health experts knew as far back as 100 years ago that asbestos caused a god-awful form of lung cancer called mesothelioma or mesothelioma. But because America does not use the precautionary principle, toxic asbestos was used in our homes, our workplaces, even our schools well into the 1970s. My friend Terry O'Connor, my friend Rob Witorsky, my dad, all died of mesothelioma. My coworker Heidi Tauber's life was torn apart by her parents' fight with the disease, and I believe that this pain led directly to her death 2 years ago. Consider these human stories. Back when Terry and I owned an herbal tea factory, it was back in the 70s, neither one of us wanted to mow the lawn. We had this big old house we were renting. And the city hit us with a big fine for having a lawn that was like, an eyesore. Now, Terry was an artist and I was a rebel. I guess Terry was too. So instead of paying the fine, Terry designed some really elaborate labels for every weed in the front yard with their Latin names. And, fully designed artwork. We put them on wooden stakes. We filled out the appropriate paperwork. And we had our front lawn designated as a botanical garden. Got us out of the big fine. I mean, we could have mowed the lawn in 15 minutes, right? But setting up a botanical garden, it took weeks of what are now very wonderful memories, frankly. But years earlier, at the motor wheel factory, where Terry worked for about a year before going to college, Terry was going through 1 to 3 pairs of asbestos gloves a day, along with his other factory workers. He had to use those gloves to remove burning hot steel wheel parts from a giant press that was 3 stories tall. The line went really fast, and it was dreadful work. I talked to Terry over the past few months, almost every weekend by Skype. His oxygen tube was the least of his discomforts, while chemo was flowing through his veins, adding a few more weeks, maybe a month or so to his life. Terry was a special guy. And America would be a better place if Terry, and the world, I think, would be a better place if Terry had been on this planet for another 10 or 20 years. I know I would be better if he was still here. His wife, his children, his grandchildren would be. Another story. My dad, Carl Hartmann, loved books, loved history. After spending 2 years in the Army during World War II, he was hoping to graduate from college and teach history. That's where I got it, right? In fact, he wanted to do it at the university level. He wanted to teach at the university level. If he could just hang on to the GI Bill, and he had a day job at a camera store, if he could just do that long enough to get a PhD. Started college in 1948, and in 1950 he'd been married for just a few months when the surprise came that forced him to drop out of college. His wife was pregnant with their first child. That would be my mom, and that first child was me. This was a time when husbands worked, wives tended the home, and being a good father and provider was one of the highest callings to which a man could aspire. So my dad dropped out of school, kept his day job from 9 to 5 at the camera shop, got a second job at a metal fabricating plant in Grand Rapids, working with molten hot metal from 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. He was exposed to toxic asbestos for, well, most of that grueling shift. For much of my mom's pregnancy and my first year, my dad slept 3 hours a night and caught up on weekends. But in the process, he earned enough to get an apartment, cover the cost of starting a family, and over the next 45 years, he continued to work in the steel and machine industry. In later years, he worked as a bookkeeper and manager for a Michigan tool and die company as my 3 younger brothers were born. In 2006, my dad injured himself tripping on the stairs and ended up in the hospital with a compression fracture of his spine. He had thought that that was causing all the pain he was having in his abdomen. The doctors discovered, though, that his lungs were filled with mesothelioma. Doctor told him he had 6 months to live, and he died with me sitting next to him. He died in excruciating pain, all because he wanted to do right by his family. Heidi Tauber, my co-host on KPOJ Radio back in Portland, when I was doing the morning show there. She grew up in Libby, Montana. Her dad was a police officer. Her mom worked around the asbestos mines. Asbestos mining was a principal business for that town. The air was filled with asbestos dust. Both of Heidi's parents died from mesothelioma, as did many of the citizens of Libby. Heidi was wounded by that, by them dying, as well as the death of much of her extended family, and many of her childhood friends died from mesothelioma. In my opinion, her death a few years ago was partly caused by those wounds. Rob Witorsky, one of our employees at the tea factory, one day when he was putting bags of extra white packaging peanuts, you know, the shipping peanuts, up in the attic. I mean, we got these things in these giant bags that were 4 feet across, you know, and they bring a semi-truck. We'd get 100 bags of it, filled the attic with them. Louise showed up with our oldest daughter, who was 2 years old at the time, and our daughter asked Rob where the bags, what was in the bags. He and Terry told her that this is where the snow gets stored for the winter. And she was so amazed. She was walking around for months telling everybody about how we were the keepers of the snow. Before Rob worked for us at the tea factory, he had also worked in the auto industry and was exposed to asbestos, just like Terry and just like my dad. All of these people were technically killed by asbestos, but they were really killed by the unregulated libertarian capitalism that allowed big corporations to put asbestos into the marketplace even though they knew it killed people. Deregulated, or our laissez-faire libertarian unregulated capitalism, is what really killed my friends and my dad. We've now outlawed asbestos in the United States, but today, right now, there are more than 80,000 chemicals in our environment that we haven't even begun to test to find out how toxic or deadly they may be, and we're just beginning to look at the GMOs. Europe and Japan use the precautionary principle. They require you prove something safe before you put it in the marketplace, but our country is still one big libertarian experiment. And with exploding autism and cancer rates, we're probably going to find out in the next generation what's here right now that people are going to be looking back on in 30 years and saying, oh yeah, just like asbestos. We need to seriously reconsider unregulated libertarian capitalism and think about the safety of people, everyday people, as a higher priority than the profits of hustlers and giant corporations. The planet would be a hell of a lot better place if these people had lived out their natural lives. So goodbye and Godspeed, Terry, Dad, Heidi, and Rob. I'm going to miss y'all. We'll be back.